Hey guys, welcome to Braddels Gaming and to another episode of my Far Cry 5 custom map series. In this series, I feature the maps that I create in the Far Cry 5 arcade, and today, as always, we're looking at my latest multiplayer map, Outback Paintball. Not only does Outback Paintball pay homage to my home country of Australia and one of my passions, which is paintball, but it's also my smallest creation to date on the Far Cry 5 arcade, only taking me a total of 2 hours and 55 minutes to complete. The map is set at a remote paintball field in the Australian outback, and given its size and some interesting gameplay modifiers, I'm expecting this map to offer fast-paced, chaotic, and tactical gameplay. Now, judging by the simplicity of this map, I could definitely argue that I could have taken even less time to put it together. However, trying to build a believable map set in Australia with assets that are all very Americanized and vegetation from other countries made this map a quite challenging build at first. Additionally, I had to custom create all the barrel structures on this map, and even with assistance from the duplication tools, I had to overcome some very unusual and annoying map editor glitches, which stunted this map's progress and made the map build take even longer than what I had expected. I'm also a creator that likes to take my time with my maps, ensuring all parts of the map are refined from the biggest to the very smallest detail for the players. Aside from these challenges though, I'm extremely happy with how this map turned out, from the authentic Australian aesthetic to the layout of the map that I was trying to achieve. Now you'll notice very soon I do some sort of editing on camera, but it's not actually editing, it's just me removing the invisible barriers for the sake of the video. I put invisible barriers around the map because obviously if you can jump on top of the barrels, which you can just basically jump out of the map. And so I put invisible barriers, as you guys can see, around the whole perimeter of the fencing of the paintball arena. But for the sake of the video, I lowered it just so it could make it a lot more easier for you guys to be able to see. And now we have the walkthrough of both teams' sort of positions from the break, the paintball break. And yeah, you're going to basically be seeing a walkthrough right now from one side and then the other side coming up very, very shortly. Now from the break, the paintball break, basically what a break is in paintball, it's basically your starting position. So in Far Cry, I should actually be saying spawns. But here on the left side, you have the snake bunker, which is one of the features of some pro paintball fields. The ones, I think they're called X-Ball or that sort of thing. They have them in the pro paintball tournaments, mostly in the United States of America. But obviously they use inflatable barriers rather than barrels. But I decided to improvise for this paintball map, and I also thought barrels kind of gave the map a rustic sort of, Australian outback type of vibe to the map. But as you guys can see, the snake is a great flanking route. And one of the cool things on this map is that you can actually prop yourself up on the barrels and you can crouch behind them, and then when you go to aim, it actually puts the gun right over the barrel structure, so you can kind of do a little bit of a mounted gun sort of action. Obviously Far Cry 5 doesn't have an inbuilt sort of mounting gun sort of animation, so on this map, it's really cool that you can, by sort of mounting your gun on the barrels, it actually does allow you to be able to do that. But as you guys can see, that is the left-hand side of the map. And now I'm going to be doing the walkthrough from the other side. So the other team, they kind of get this sort of broken ute at the start of the match, which you can also sort of mount on and give you a lot of cover, anything from, below your shoulders. And similarly, you can also do the peek animation out of the barrels as well. So you just crouch behind them, and then you basically, whichever side you are dominant on, when you go to aim, the game will sort of peek your character out on that side, as I sort of demonstrate very, very soon. Now, one of the things that you really want to know on this map is that the sightlines are very diagonal. So I'm going to explain this a little bit further down the video in a lot more detail. but there is a lot of diagonal sightlines, which means you've got to be quite careful when you move forward and be sure to check all the diagonal sightlines. You've got this middle bunker here as well, and there's sort of a small gradient in terms, well, a small de-escalation or de-escalation with the terrain in this sort of central area. That was just to provide a little bit of verticality for the players and a little bit of variety as well. And this central bunker structure is here just so that there's a little bit more variety in the map, and also as kind of like a huge cover point for the player. It's kind of a mini reward, because if you can push yourself up to that position without getting shot, there's a lot of cover there for you to be able to sort of hold that middle position down. And that middle position can be quite a power position as well. But here you can see me sort of showing you guys in the editor view how the barrels are lined up sort of in rows that are kind of like alternating. And what this allows is these huge diagonal sight lines. So you can basically shoot someone from this position here. And as you guys can see with my the white dot in the middle, I'm showing how there's this huge diagonal sight line. So if you're behind that barrel all the way at the back there, you can actually fire all the way through that gap and hit someone unsuspected, well, someone who is not really expecting it. And that is the same thing on the other side of the map as well. The map is pretty much symmetrical. I tried to make it as symmetrical as possible, but there are still some slight variations from one side of the map to the other. And so to sort of combat this and to also combat spawn killing, I actually sort of introduced a flip spawning approach to this map, similar to what I did with my last multiplayer map, Uphill, where I actually combined the red and the blue spawns together so that spawn killing can't really be done by either team. You can also see I put this sound point here, this bunker management audio volume, so that when you're actually inside that middle bunker, it actually makes a little bit more of an echo than if you're outside the bunker, and that's just to further the immersion for the players. As you guys can see here, I'm also demonstrating once again the sort of de-escalation in the terrain in this middle sort of area. That's just to provide players in this middle area almost a little bit of extra cover, as the terrain, the gradient of the ground sort of sloping down kind of gives them some extra sort of bunker, some extra sort of cover, sort of like in the form of a trench. But at the same time, they're also very vulnerable, as they can be fired on from any position. As you'd expect from any multiplayer map in the center, you're obviously going to be quite vulnerable to enemy fire, especially if the other team controls the snake bunker. Now earlier I mentioned a flip spawning system, and how this can basically be achieved is by combining the red and the blue spawns together to create almost one sort of spawn. And it's something that Call of Duty does with their maps. They often flip the spawns between the teams so that spawn killing is minimized. So as you guys can see here, you can actually combine a blue and a red spawn together, and it's something I only recently discovered, because in Far Cry 4 this wasn't possible. I know Far Cry 4 didn't have multiplayer, but you couldn't overlap the spawn points in Far Cry 4 nonetheless. And often in Far Cry, in the editor, you often can't overlap gameplay objects, and so I didn't know that you could do this until recently. But what this allows you to do is it means that when one team pushes up to the other team, it means that the spawns will just flip, and so spawn killing won't be an issue. Now you guys can see me going into the gameplay modifiers. You can see the countdown, time limit, and the score to reach for either team. And what I've done to sort of generate this fast-paced sort of gameplay is, and also the chaotic side of things as well, is this infinite ammo. Obviously this is a paintball map. Now in paintball maps you often don't have unlimited ammunition, but I decided just for the sake of the game I wanted to make it fun for people, and I didn't really want them running out of ammo, especially when the other gameplay modifier is a one-shot kill. Obviously in paintball, once the paint splatters onto your body or your gun, you're basically out. And so I want to introduce that same sort of mechanic in this map, and so I introduced the one-shot game modifier, so that when you take one hit, you're basically dead and you have to respawn. Now I've also turned on the no fall damage gameplay modifier, and this is a great countermeasure for a glitch that happens in the Far Cry 5 arcade. If you're using the one-shot kills player gameplay modifier, you also want to turn on the no fall damage, because I've noticed that when the one-shot kills player modifier is on, if someone jumps off an object, even if it is just 1 meter above the ground, the game will kill them. And so also having the no fall damage gameplay modifier on as well is a great countermeasure to ensure this glitch doesn't become a big issue in your maps. Now moving on to the loadouts for this map, first off there is two similarities between all four loadouts. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, the one-shot kills player modifier is turned on, meaning all guns will kill an enemy player in one shot, regardless of what type of gun it is and where you shot at the person. The second similarity is that all loadouts are equipped with the homeopathic fast drug. Obviously, paintball fields in real life don't give out adrenaline shots to the players to move faster, but this is the Australian outback, so anything really goes. No, but in all seriousness, I decided to add the fast homeopathic drug to allow everyone on this map to move a lot faster, as this map has been designed for players to embrace the fast-paced style of combat. So in essence, the only real difference between all four loadouts is just the feel of each gun. Now the first loadout we have is the Russia class. This is for aggressive players that want to lead their team's charge up the field. In professional paintball, this type of player is typically known as the frontman. This loadout is equipped with a silenced MB40, which for some reason just feels like a standard paintball gun in terms of the feel and sound of it. As it is classed as an SMG, I also felt this was the most appropriate gun for this aggressive type style of gameplay. Moving on to the second loadout, we have the Tactical class. This is for players that are a little more cautious than the Russia class. Typically in pro paintball, these players will be known as the mid players, situated halfway between the frontmen and the backs. They offer versatility, being able to either lead their team further down the field, or by using the flanking opportunities available on the map via the Snake Bunker. The MS-16 is obviously a very adaptive type of weapon. It's semi-automatic, meaning you can control its rate of fire, and is good at pretty much any range. The third loadout is the Sniper class, and is obviously designed for people that want to camp at the back of the map and snipe. The cool thing about this loadout is that it's the only loadout with two weapons, both with scopes, allowing players using this loadout to see enemy players from much further away. This loadout is accompanied by a pistol, just to ensure the sniper class has some sort of assistance should enemies creep closer. The fourth and final loadout is the support class. These players are commonly known as the backs in pro paintball, given their large amount of ammunition and their purpose to provide covering fire for their other teammates to move further up the field. Given this loadout is equipped with an LMG, it's definitely recommended that anyone using this loadout, like the sniper class, stays near the back of the map behind cover, as both the LMG and sniper class will take longer to aim down their sights in comparison with the guns in the Russia and tactical classes. Wrapping up this map breakdown video, I'll quickly discuss the environment. One thing I always like to talk about in these videos, and is advice I strongly recommend for fellow map editor creators out there, is to make your maps seem like they're part of a larger world. I spent a decent chunk of time on detailing the exterior parts of the map that the player can see, and making maps seem like they're part of a larger world really develops immersion for players, making them feel like the playable zone extends beyond. It's also what game developers do for their maps, regardless if it's a multiplayer or solo type of map, and so if the game developers are doing it, I think it's just the best way to go forward. It also means that it shows that you're not lazy, I guess, with your creation, you're finishing it to the end. Now, in terms of creating this believable Australian outback environment, you guys will now see some on-screen vegetation collections and textures I used that I found were best for a map set in the Australian outback. And please feel free to pause the video on any of these collections or paint textures if you want to use them in your map. if you're trying to create a similar environment, whether it's set in Australia or a more remote type of country deserted setting. But otherwise, thank you guys very much for tuning in to another map breakdown video and to my latest creation in the Far Cry 5 arcade Outback Paintball. Even though this map is my smallest creation to date, I'm extremely happy with how it's turned out in terms of the map layout and size, the environment, and the detailing. And hopefully the gameplay will be as fast-paced, chaotic, and tactical as I've predicted in this map breakdown. But of course, we'll evaluate that in the gameplay breakdown of this specific map next week. This map will be released at the exact same time this video goes live on YouTube, so if you're on the Xbox One, don't forget to give it a go. But until then, please remember to like the video, subscribe if you're new around here, and hit the bell icon for future channel notifications. I'm Braddels Gaming, I'm signing out now, and remember to have yourselves a great day.